Hello YouTube fans, here again. I remember doing this twice and it has to be one of my all-time favourites, and it has to be one of my favourite slasher films from the early 80s. This has to be one of my favourite slasher films. And I'm going to be open and I'm going to be honest, why the fuck did they not make a sequel of this? You think over the years there'd be a fan out of fan sizes. This would be a fan size. This would be a fan size. Hollywood. Why is it you're wasting money doing remakes, reboots, kind of copy things from the fucking past? When you had a film, and I'm going to be honest, you had a film all the way back in 1981, and it could have been a sequel, and they could have made a new fan size and a new fucking character there and then. And for people who want to know what I've been blabbing on about, I'm on about The Burning. Yep, I'm going to say it again, The Burning. One of my all-time favourite slasher films. And it is, I love it, I love it. Now, when it come out, a lot of people said it was a Friday the 13th rip-off. It was a Friday the 13th spin-off. These are bits where I can offend the film. I can offend it because, in all fairness, Friday the 13th, even though I love Friday the 13th, I even saw it last night because it was Friday the 13th, and they made lots of sequels. I'd have to say yeah and no. There are similarities, but in all fairness, Friday the 13th was one that started off. So, I mean, 2 days after this, they did one called Street Parade Tamp, which a lot of people remember the ending more, which I might just review that one. That's like a good one. Street Parade Tamp. That's an interesting one. So there's always been a film where someone goes tamping. Even before you had the tamping slasher films, there were films that were similar. Look at films like Difference with the late Burt Reynolds, where it was to do with people going on a fishing trip and they bump into these Beverly Hillbillies and they're attacking them. And the movie I did not long ago called Rick Rules. Rick Rules, it was people going on a hunting trip. And you had a psycho flipping popping them off one by one. So there's always been similar films like that. So The Burning, I never really thought was a Friday the 13th rip-off. Anyway, come with the story. Starts off, you've got a couple of kids, and they've got this guy who's, I think he's like a gardener, or he's someone like a security guard or something like that. You know, his dad's the area on this camping place. Because apparently you get the idea he's a bit of a bully. Decide to pay a prank on this guy called Bert Ramsey. I think his name's called Bert Ramsey. And the prank goes wrong, and the poor guy gets burnt. I mean, he gets badly burnt, and I dilute the dye. Unlike nowadays, it'd be shitty CGI, like that horrible fucking remake Nightmare on Elm Street, where you had a CGI fucking feather running around going, steaming like a fucking prick. This was done practical. Well, I miss them days. A real stunt man on a burn suit, running around, and a dud practical stunt. But you got the idea anyway, story-wise. The guy got badly burnt. It's a couple of months later. And I love this scene. I love it. It's cool, but it's funny. You got the idea that Bert Ramsey is now in a coma. And you always get one guy, don't you, in hospital that likes to sew off. So he's sewing off, saying, yeah, man, this guy's burnt. He's burnt to a crisp. A fucking Big Mac. So, yeah, that did make me laugh when he says that line. A fucking Big Mac. So he's sewing off, and the guy, Bert Ramsey, comes out of his coma. He jabs the guy by his arm. The guy shits himself, and you got the beautiful music. You got the idea now. He's come out of hospital. You hear voiceovers that they tried to help him, but they couldn't do anything. But this bit always pissed me. It's always pissed me because he gets a prostitute, right? You don't see the deferment nearly at the end, but the prostitute obviously sees him. You know, he's off screen. She goes panic mode. And he kills the prostitute. And to me, it never made sense. Good practical effect. I remember saying that before. It really did look realistic, pretty brutal. But it never made sense because I thought he's just going to attack people who taught him to get burnt. I never really thought it was a revenge film, like most slasher films. The only one I ever bought was more of a revenge, would have been sort of high. And I remember saying that before. But it's still not a bad one. So you got the idea now, it's a couple more months later, and now these people are on a camping trip. And I like this one because you do actually see kids in a summer camping tip. Normally it's people, if you buy them being teenagers. Guess what? Guess what? I'm 16. So no, they're not. They're half the time you can tell they're not teenagers. But some of these are pretty long. You got one lad who plays a pank on a door and it frightens her. You got one lad which is typical, your typical bully. And you got this other guy in it who has a bit of a twist to the end, by the way. This actually has a twist to it. Because let's cut the story short. The lad, right, he's only the lad that pays a pank on Bert Ramsey and taught him to get burnt. The only thing is, I never bought, when they saw a longer version of him, it was him. There's one lad in it, right, who looked like he had a bit of a guilty conscience, and he was the longest one there, and he was pestered and pushed into doing it by the looks of it in my eyes. And I thought it would have been better, it would have been that character. And that always made me laugh. It was like a couple of months later, it wasn't like a couple of days, it was a couple of months that he's now going up, he's now in a champ stool. So it's not like a couple of days later, this is like a couple of months later. So suddenly now he's drew up pretty bloody fast, hasn't he? But it's a film, it's a film. I didn't like fly over my head too much. Now it come out in the days of Fawn, and when it did re-release on video, sadly to say, it was cut to fucking pieces. Because like most films, the burning was a video nasty. I shit you not, it was a video nasty. So when they re-released it again, they cut bits out the film to shit. So anyway, there's a champ story, and funny enough, it came out the same year as Friday the 13th Part 2 in 1981. And there's a bit in it, right, and I'm not making this up, there's a bit in it, and it kind of reminds me of that. So you get the first death scene, it's not that day, the door gets a throat slit, but the death scenes do get more bloodier and more firing. And again, special effects, I keep saying him, and I might one day review these films. John Savini. John Savini, as I said before, did special effects. That's why I cannot stand CGI. I fucking hate CGI. He did the special effects for the original Friday the 13th. He did special effects for Friday the 13th, the final chapter. And he did effects same day for the Paula. And he did the effects for this, which is probably one of the reasons why he didn't do the special effects for the second Friday the 13th. Now, I knew it took him so many months and so many days to do the burnt makeup on the guy who played Bert Ramsey, you know, the killer. People say, oh, it looks shit, it looks naff. Now, granted, it's not like the makeup you see Robert Englund wear as Freddy Krueger. And I wish it was that sort of makeup, because, yeah, it does look a bit OTT. But for the time and the speed he had to do that, and he was rushed to do it, I may add, I think he did a bladding good job. I think he did a good job, because when you see the preferment of Bert Ramsey, the killer with the face, it does a fucking brilliant job. It does a brilliant job. Now, everyone remembers the famous boat scene, right? You've got loads of teenagers, they're on a boat, you see this boat, you've got music, you think you're going to find a body of that girl, the one I just mentioned, who had a folk slip. Nope, it's the killer himself. And everyone remembers the iconic scene. He kills them. It's just a so-called bloodbath at this scene. He cuts a lad's fingers off, stabs a girl in the head, stabs a guy in the neck. Damn good practical effects again by John Savini. And it's pretty brutal, it's pretty vicious at this bit, but I actually respect it, because I felt, this is pretty fucking ballsy move for any slasher film. That was ballsy, because normally, you know, they always get killed one by one. Do you get the same time the shots that you see in the Friday the 13th or Halloween, where you see the PV shot, you know, the Tamden man, that's this killer. So anyway, to cut the story short, Bert Ramsey kills a girl, Austin, kills that bully. That does remind me a bit of one of the Friday the 13th there. Again, good practical effect, the slays in the neck, good effect, again, by John Savini. And as I said, he was chases this lad, gets him in his seat at thing, bit fishes here, the older lad is a prisoner with says stuck in his arms. He's fighting one of the other main characters, the one what burnt him, you know, the prank that went wrong. And the lad gets away, whams says in the back of his head, kills the fucker. But then he's down, you know, these typical jumps there. He jumps back up and he gets stabbed again. And then he gets burnt. Then you've got another champ story. You got one lad saying a champ story and he says that line, "You're dead." And it kind of leaves a sequel bait opening. But sadly to say, there's never been a sequel. and it's heartbreaking because I love The Burning. I think it's a damn good, worthy slasher film. And in today's era, I don't think they would be. If they were going to do it now, it'd be a shitty fucking remake. They'll pussy out on the violence. If you see a guy now getting burnt, it'd be done shitty CGI style. And it's the same because I think it should have preserved a sequel. I really do. And for it to be a video nasty, believe me, there have been a lot nastier films than The Burning. A lot. I can name a lot in that era. But The Burning was one of my favourite slasher films. Is it a Friday the 30th? Yeah, then no. But they had a lot of films similar to that era. You know, but I like it. I like the Tramp story. It kind of reminds me of the Tramp story in the second Friday the 13th. And it's an hard one, which one to compare. But I think they're both good in their own way. Good film. Love The Burning. Still love it now. Classic slasher film of the 80s. That's The Burning. Until then, I've got a burnout. And I'll see you soon.